Hello there, yo soy Alonso y están escuchando el podcast de Salón de Idiomas. ¿Qué tal están? Buenos días, espero que estén teniendo un día maravilloso y bueno, aquí estamos en un episodio más del podcast de Salón de Idiomas, Rox y yo.
Hola a todos, ¿qué tal?
So today, Rox, we're gonna start talking about something really special, right? Something special to you.
Indeed, and that's because I actually love this exam. We're talking about...
Trinity ISE III, right?
Yeah, well, actually just Trinity ISE, but ISE III is one of my favorite for sure, which is the C1 level.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, so can you enlighten all of us? What is this?
Okay, so this is actually it's not a new exam, okay? It's always been there along with Cambridge. And there are many people who already know about it, okay? Now, why do I like this exam more than, I don't know, Cambridge or even Aptis or the new exams right now? It's basically because it sticks more to a linguistic reality, and you have much more room for improvisation when it comes to the speaking. And I truly believe that you really show your level in this exam. And there's nothing hidden behind as you may feel like there might be in other exams, yeah.
Okay, great. So it definitely depends truly on your just in your proficiency of the language, right? So
Indeed, yeah.
talking about the speaking test, which is what we're gonna focus today, can you tell me a little bit more about it? Since like what makes it so special? What makes it stand out?
Yeah. So you do the speaking with an examiner, okay? So he or she's gonna be there, and you're gonna see them usually like in person, okay? However, now with after the pandemic, indeed there have been the classes have been online. However, you do have to do the exam in one of the Trinity College Center or those schools which belong to which are centros examinadores, as you may say in Spanish, okay? Now, what makes it special? Well, basically because you are going to be speaking with the examiner for about a quarter of an hour, okay? And you have 4 different parts. The funny thing is that if you really prepare for it from home or from school or whatever you might be preparing this exam, you can actually have the first part known by heart.
So it seems that it's the same as in Trinity ISE II, where you choose a topic to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It follows the same thread. You will always gonna be given the same structure, and the only difference is the difficulty of the topic, and as well the length. I mean, the time you have to perform this and to answer and respond to these tasks. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that you gotta speak a little longer than if in the ISE II, perhaps 4 minutes or something along those lines?
Yes, indeed. So we have 4 tasks. We have the topic task, which has kind of 2 parts. You're given 4 minutes to lay out your presentation on a topic that you previously decide to work on and to present, okay? And then you're given another 4 minutes, and within those 4 minutes, you have to discuss about the topic. So you basically need to answer questions which the examiner might be posing you, or make comments on points which are raised in your presentation, okay? So that's gonna be 8 minutes in total. And then you have the collaborative task, which takes 4 minutes. And then at the end, the conversation task, which is just 3 minutes. This is within the C1 level. Then you have the other parts, the other levels, which might be a bit shorter or longer, depending whether you go for a B2 or a C2.
Hey, but you told me that there were 4 parts. Are you missing one?
No, I'm not missing. I just said that the first part is divided within 2 tasks. Okay, so you have the topic task, which has the topic presentation and the topic discussion, which for me basically are 2 different tasks,
okay.
But they're related because both of them verge around the topic. And then you have the collaborative and the conversation.
Okay, great. Okay, nice. So, what about this topic? Can it be literally about anything? Like, can I talk about, I don't know, the Lord of Star Wars or something along those lines?
Yeah, definitely. It has to be a topic that really interests you. And I strongly recommend to stray away from like really generic topics. Okay, don't come and I wouldn't recommend people to talk about, I know, emotional intelligence. Okay, because it's such a wide topic and you might be asked so many weird of the chart questions, and you might get cold feet because it's such an open topic for questions and you might not be prepared to answer those questions. So what I really recommend is to talk about something that really you're really passionate about. We usually have people talking about their experiences, I don't know, abroad or as a teacher, or your values if they're a teacher. I'm mentioning a lot the word teacher because indeed we have many educators preparing for this exam. But however, no matter your passion, just go with it and talk about something which has content, is coherent, and is passionate enough for you that you're not likely to lose your train of thoughts when you're actually delivering it. Okay.
Yeah, and besides like having some background knowledge, if like with the further questions that you're gonna be asked, yeah, definitely. Okay, now before we move forward to the rest of the test, can you tell me what is the assessment criteria here?
Yes, indeed. So they basically assess the same things like in all the exams you might be assessed. Okay, they really focus on your coherence, on you formulating your arguments coherently and cohesively. Okay, and then there are other things they really assess. Okay, which is the ability to effectively communicate. Okay, and is what does it mean? Well, it means that you respond to the statement. Okay, for example, in the collaborative task, you are supposed to be the one who makes the conversation flow. If you are not effectively communicating that, and you kind of expect the examiner to give you a hand, like to help you out, you are actually not communicating effectively within that specific task where you're required to lead the conversation. Okay, so that's really important, like the way you communicate. So it has to be effective. You have to respond to what you're being required and to do it the way you are expected to do it. Then as well is your language control. And over here, it has to do a lot with your vocabulary, your repertoire. Okay, so definitely like the more decorated your repertoire, the better. Now be careful and don't I mean, if you set high expectation with really high vocabulary and nice academic vocabulary, if you like, in the first part, when you're asked random questions which you might not be prepared for, make sure that you keep up with the same level you have set in your presentation, for instance. Okay, and the accuracy, which is really tightly related to the pronunciation and intonation, and the coherence. And that will be it. Okay, it's really important. I said already, it's like critical to really intonate accordingly and pronunciate as if you were a native speaker. So just exaggerate when doing it. Okay, let your hair down and go for it.
Okay, so you pretty much have to talk as if you were like the native speaker that they're expecting you to be, pretty much, right? Okay.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, so now when it comes to the collaborative task, correct me if I'm wrong, but it pretty much, to my mind, it boils down to aiding the examiner solving kind of like a problem that they might stumble upon. Now, what kind of do you have a certain structure to tackle this part, or?
Yes, indeed. And actually, you will be staggeringly successful if you're able of formulating correctly this task of the speaking exam. How? Well, basically having a formula. Okay. So what I recommend here is to have a formula, and no matter the prompt, because the examiner is gonna pose a prompt. He's gonna give you like a situation he might encounter or find a bit difficult for him or her, and you have to craft the conversation based on that, starting from that specific prompt. So having like a formula learned by heart beforehand is going to be really, really useful. Okay, because it's going to help you both on creating a successful delivery, because you already know what you're going to be saying because of those specific steps you will follow. And then again, you're going to be showing this high range of vocabulary because you already know by heart the expressions you're going to be using, right? And you just adapt your formula to the prompt you're going to be exposed.
So when we are actually doing this part, perhaps having like, I don't know, like a setup of this is a way that I can just accept the information that I have been told. For instance, oh, I have a problem with my children who are not allowed to use technology. Perhaps like having already a set phrase, for instance, something like, oh, that sounds terrible, or something like that, right?
Yes, indeed. You have to show sympathy, and you have to show as well that there might be different ways to the way, to the outlook of your examiner. And there are expressions for that, okay? There are different expressions to agree, there are different expressions to kindly disagree, to show empathy, to be sympathetic, to reformulate. So there's where we come in. It's like we give you the structures and you have to know some of them by heart. Of course, depending on the level, you might be having more intrinsic structures than others. And then we have to work on the natural way of delivering those structures, so it doesn't sound that robotic.
Okay, yeah. Mind you, there's one little thing that people tend to misconceptualize about this part, is that they tend to just ask questions like as if it were an interrogatory. So we keep in mind that that should not happen.
Yeah, that's really important indeed. Try not to, because some of us might get confused with the idea of collaboration, and we might just start asking questions because we know that we have to make our examiner speak. However, that's not the aim of it. You have to be mindful with the questions you ask. So for example, ask open questions. Ask questions with why do you think so? Okay, or what makes you think so? Don't ask questions like do you agree with me? Because they will kind of just say yes and no. And you might not be communicating effectively in that case, yeah.
That doesn't seem fair. When you are the other person, every time they ask you a yes or no question, you always have to elaborate on that.
Yeah, but in this exam, they might be a bit cold in that case, because they expect a different thing from you, and they expect you to be able to engage the examiner in that collaborative task successfully. So therefore, it's not just about asking questions, it's about the way you pose your different arguments and the way you make them see differently the situation that might be exposed there.
So do you have one or two examples for sentences in order to show agreement or disagreement that could be helpful?
Yes, indeed. So for example, try to go with idioms, okay? Because we have idioms for agreeing and disagreeing. For example, I'm really keen on the expression, yeah, I look eye to eye with you on that aspect. Okay, so that's a really nice one of saying I agree with you. So, and you move away from the typical I agree, which basically everyone knows, or I think along your lines. That's a different one. Oh, I don't think along your lines. So I'm afraid I might not think along your lines. So that's like a more formal way of saying I actually disagree with you.
And a nice way to wrap up when you have portrayed that you are disagreeing, you can just simply say something like, well, let's agree to disagree.
Yeah, definitely. That's a pretty commonly, an expression you can encounter on a daily basis in English. So that's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So now let's move on to the part 3-4, the conversation task.
Yeah, that would be the last part, which indeed, depending on how you take it, it's the third part of the last task, whatever. So the conversation task over here, it's critical that you remember that it's a dialogue. Okay, so it's a discussion, it's a conversation. It's not much of a collaboration, like I see your point and what makes you think that, and don't you believe that differently, that might be working differently in this situation, whatever. In this discussion topic, you just need to have a normal dialogue with your examiner, And over here, you can expose your arguments freely without being that much afraid of, okay, am I doing it right or not?
Okay, so pretty much here, the examiner is going to change their mindset and they're actually just going to ask you questions or perhaps just elaborate more on what they're saying. So to have a normal conversation.
Yes, indeed. And I guess that the challenging part of this task is a bit the topic you might be posed, right? For example, I remember a student of ours once said that she was asked in the exam, so what's ambition?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my God, never have I thought of that even in Spanish. How would I know that in English to convey that? Okay, so it's not that much the way you you interact with your examiner, but the topic itself, right? Because actually ambition is one of the topics. The Trinity College gives you like a list of different topics that might be tackled in this part, and ambition is one of them. And she was just asked directly, what's ambition? And there are many ways of addressing or working around this question. Firstly, you can just come up with some expressions to help you gain some time. It's like, oh, well, as a matter of fact, honestly, never have I thought of it. You use as a matter of fact, and say, never have I thought of it, like a kind of like apologetically say, no idea. But then you kind of gain time and you just throw, those really nice use of English expression like an inversion. And it sounds really cool. And then, of course, you have to be a bit coherent and respond to the question and just give your point of view.
Okay, so it's completely acceptable to acknowledge that we don't have a clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Nicely. Supposedly, you should be knowing something because beforehand, as I told you, they give you these topics. They're actually on the webpage of Trinity College. We have them, and all the schools which actually help students prepare for this exam should be teaching and talking about and raising different topics related to these specific themes.
Okay, common themes. Well, I don't have to ask you. The environment is one of them. Okay, perhaps like your work life or study life.
I guess they're a bit more modern. Like you might be asked about, the individual's right, okay, and stereotypes, and they might be a bit, advertising. I mean, they might be a bit different, from the typical ones you're likely to encounter on a normal exam. And this is what I actually like about it, because honestly, we've been preparing and we prepare like plenty of exams here in Salón de Idiomas, and it really blows me away the fact that most of the official exams, they are so old-fashioned when it comes to the questions they pose to a student or a candidate so that they can show their level in English. For instance, I'm not pretty keen on discussing about pictures, because in the end, in a real life, okay, would you actually be talking about pictures, what you see in the foreground, in the background, on the left, on the right? So that's why I believe that Trinity, to my mind, will be the best option if you really want to enjoy learning English while preparing for an official exam. There are others as well, which might be, faster or even easier if you like. But this exam, to my mind, is the best one for that specific case. Learn why you prepare and really enjoy on the way. But of course, some of us are between a rock and a hard place, and sometimes it's quite challenging to really enjoy the path of, like, oh my God, I'm preparing, 3 different kinds of essays for Trinity. I'm starting to feel a bit tired. So I don't know, it has its ups and downs, but that's the reason why I'm so keen on Trinity.
Okay, so yeah, definitely just comparing pictures or talking something like that in the real life doesn't happen that often unless you were like a fashion designer.
I wonder how they can still craft exams like that. It's like, why would you still craft exam with asking questions, giving just a minute to answer, and in the end, it's not relatable. It's not relatable.
So we could say that this test is a little bit ahead of its time, since you told me that it is been around for a while.
Yeah.
However, they have this format that seems quite modern. Speaking of these topics that you could talk about, I guess that it sounds really frightening to be talking about something that could be a little controversial. What if you definitely do not agree with the examiner within this part? Is it okay, or are they gonna be like, you don't think like me, you're gonna not pass?
They shouldn't be doing that. Okay, they shouldn't be asking you questions which are not on the guide or the guidelines they might having when it comes to assessing you and evaluating for this specific exam. Of course, you can disagree. The idea is to kindly disagree with it and to give to give different standpoints for them to see it, and perhaps that's the aim of it, for you to feel a bit, to find the topic perhaps a bit off-putting and not to feel at ease with it, and how to handle that. Perhaps they might not even agree with it, but they pose that situation, right? So that's the aim of it, is how you handle it. And there are many expressions, many ways of doing it. And the most important thing is, no matter the topic, smile and be likable and agreeable, and you will see that in the end, even body language is important, because having this receptive way of engaging in a conversation in Trinity is gonna be, for me, it's absolutely deadly. It's gonna make you like really successful.
Nice. So I don't know if you're gonna agree with me, and let's practice a little bit of that. What I'm seeing here is a little interesting pattern. Like in first part, you are the one who is in the spotlight. Like you are the one who's been asked all these questions, and you gotta just make sure that you are able to just move forward. Now, on the other hand, the second part, you are the one who has been asking the questions. So you take the other part, that you go completely the other way around. And then in the end, you end up in a kind of like in a balanced way. So it's actually an interesting setup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. For sure, you won't get bored, and you have to play different roles, and you have to, cognitively, you have to like really be there, like really aware throughout the whole exam. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, sounds fun. Sounds a little bit like bad cop, good cop.
kind of. But yeah, this is the fun part of the exam, the speaking. There are other parts which might be a bit tricky, and I believe we will be talking about in different podcasts, because it will take longer to,
Yeah, especially the writing has
a
bunch of things to talk about.
Definitely, yeah. But we will see it, because it will take time to dwell into that.
Well, of course, you also have the listening part, which is immediately like tackled right after the speaking.
Yeah.
However, then we can just talk about a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, I believe that listening as well, it's imperative to know certain criteria and certain important things, and I will devote like a whole podcast episode just to the listening part.
Interesting. So even though that it's actually like a 5-minute thing, it has
it's
still
really short, but it's important the way you do it.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Great. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with us about the speaking part?
Yeah, there's something that I've been thinking about, and I believe that a really interesting way of learning improvisation and on being, because improvisation is like tightly related to your critical thinking. Okay, so I believe that a pretty interesting way of working on those skills, improvisation and critical thinking, is to work as well on the writing. Okay, we're going to be talking about the writing in a different podcast. However, what I'm trying to say here is that the writing skill goes along with the speaking skill. So you shouldn't be taking this differently when you prepare for this exam or for whatever exam you might be preparing. Okay, so the more writings you do, the better, because that's going to be projected as well on the way you convey your thoughts and the way you reformulate or just formulate your ideas. So the more you work on the writing, the better your speaking performance might be. As well, make sure that you practice your speaking and you express yourself many times many times. I mean, you express yourself within these specific topics, and you work with it with your teacher and with your friends, whatever. that's important to do the speaking. However, mind you, try to always work on the writing as well, because that way you're gonna be really enhancing those important, really crucial skills in your life, which is gonna be your critical thinking and your improvisation skills.
So you could say that by doing writings, we're pretty much working out the same muscle of the speaking. It's just like, well, our cognitive muscle.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I guess that also, since with the writing, you are going to take just a little extra time, since you don't have to improvise everything immediately. Perhaps you are also going to stumble upon of nice expressions that perhaps could be translated into your speaking later, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, try to work on the way you articulate yourself, both written and spoken, and you will see how you will be like absolutely deadly in these kind of exams.
Fantastic. Great. So I guess that will be it for today.
Yeah, I mean, we have like plenty of more things to talk about in the next podcast.
Now, before we do that, what could somebody do if they want to just know more about this test, or at least this part?
Yeah, definitely. So we have so much information on our blog, on our YouTube channel. Even we have some demos, okay, where you can practice with some with some models and some exams and see some topics. We like to work with topics which are tightly related and really similar to the original topics. So yeah, you have plenty of material out there that we lay out for you. And then, of course, you can join our classes and you can join our platform, our e-learning platform, which has so much vocabulary and lessons and tutorials and things we've been working on. Yeah.
Nice. Great. Fantastic.
Okay.
Hey, thank you so much for coming again today.
Thank you, and see you next time.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.
Hola, ya estoy aquí de regreso y bueno, en el episodio de hoy, Rox y yo hablamos del examen Trinity ISE, para ser más precisos, el 3, que es para el nivel C1. Por cierto, ISE significa o stands for Integrated Skills in English, y resulta ser uno de los tests favoritos de nuestra preparadora Rox, ya que a pesar de estar en el mercado desde hace tiempo, como Cambridge, este se ciñe mucho más a la realidad lingüística. Hay más espacio para la improvisación con respecto a la producción oral y realmente muestras tu nivel. El speaking del ISE III, que es nuestro enfoque de hoy, se hace con un examinador en alguno de los establecimientos del Trinity College o algún centro examinador habilitado para dicho fin. La producción oral cuenta con 4 tareas que haces con el examinador y si te preparas bien, prácticamente podemos decir que la primera parte del speaking, la llamada topic task, la puedes hacer de memoria o by heart. Esta estructura sigue la línea de todos los ISE, el primero, el segundo o incluso el cuarto. Y aunque evidentemente tanto la dificultad como la duración de la prueba irán variando dependiendo del nivel. El speaking siempre se comienza con el topic task, la primera que comentábamos, y esta se separa en 2 tareas. En la primera tendrás que hablar de un tema de elección propia que previamente te habrás preparado en clase o en casa. Te darán 4 minutos para exponer o layout tu presentación. Luego, se te dan 4 minutos más para discutir con el examinador puntos de tu presentación o preguntas que te puedan hacer relativas a tu topic. La presentación puede ser de cualquier tema, mientras sea algo que te interese, tal vez de Star Wars en mi caso. Eso sí, Rox recomienda que se alejen o stay away from generic topics. Ya saben, hay que buscar algo que dé de qué hablar. Sin embargo, tampoco es recomendable escoger algo súper amplio o ambiguo que dé oportunidad que se te puedan hacer preguntas raras que terminen dándote cold feet o que te hagan perder la confianza por no estar completamente seguros de qué responder. Así que elijan un tema que les apasione y que sepan que pueden responder varios aspectos de este without breaking a sweat o sin dificultad. Ahora, antes de continuar, Con las otras partes del examen, Rox nos explica el Assessment Criteria o criterio de evaluación, lo cual no es nada fuera de lo normal, pero no seguirlo influirá negativamente en nuestra puntuación final. Se enfocan en que seas coherente, cohesivo y que seas efectivo en tu comunicación, es decir, que respondas correctamente a lo que se te está evaluando en cada parte. Por ejemplo, en la Collaborative Task, se espera que seas tú quien guíe la conversación y no el examinador. Por otro lado, tenemos el Language Control, que se puede resumir en lo rico que es tu vocabulario. Pero cuidado, ya que si suben mucho las expectativas usando un léxico académico y avanzado al principio, se espera que mantengan el mismo nivel cuando respondan a las preguntas que se les pueden hacer. Por último, y no menos importante, se evalúa la pronunciación y entonación. Para ello, Rox recomienda que habría que exagerar nuestras expresiones. Let your hair down o actúa de manera un poco más desinhibida. Volviendo a la estructura del speaking, la siguiente parte, la Collaborative Task, boils down to o se resume en ayudar al examinador a solucionar una situación ficticia en aproximadamente 4 minutos. Rox piensa que serán staggeringly successful o asombrosamente exitosos si hacen uso de algunas fórmulas que hayan practicado antes en clase, ya que podrán mostrar un vocabulario rico y mayor elocuencia. Por ejemplo, pueden usar expresiones para mostrar empatía o mostrar acuerdo o desacuerdo. Algo así como I understand how you feel o You're in a tough spot here. I couldn't agree more with you. I get what you're saying, however, etc. Sin embargo, una mala interpretación que los candidatos tienen con esta parte es que tienden a hacer de la conversación un interrogatorio. Recuerden que hay que comentar también lo que se les dice. Les recomiendo, por otro lado, formular preguntas más abiertas para hacer que el examinador se exprese más, ya que ellos suelen tener un rol más puntual o frío si quieren. Otras expresiones que pueden utilizar son algunos idioms como I look eye to eye with you on that aspect o I think along your lines para mostrar acuerdo, aunque también simplemente pueden negar estas expresiones para mostrar desacuerdo. Si quieren, le añaden más formalidad o, en mi perspectiva, drama y dicen I'm afraid I might not think along your lines. Y si no hay forma de llegar a un acuerdo, también pueden decir el clásico let's agree to disagree. Luego, en la última parte, la Conversation Task, nos tenemos que sacar el chip de la colaboración y procurar mantener una conversación que sea lo más natural posible. De la misma manera, el examinador cambiará su estrategia y ahora te hará preguntas o se expresará con mayor detalle. Sin embargo, lo desafiante de esta parte es la amplia gama de temas para conversar, que a mi parecer pueden terminar siendo hasta filosóficos. Por ejemplo, les pueden preguntar ¿qué es la ambición? Quizás es una buena idea ser honestos y usar la inversión que Rox dice well, as a matter of fact, never have I thought of that, o lo que significa de hecho nunca he pensado en ello. En esta forma ganamos un poco de tiempo y pensamos en qué decir luego. Por suerte, Trinity College provee ciertos temas que pueden entrar en el examen para que lo tengan preparado y lo tengan en mente beforehand o de antemano. Estos temas tienden a tener un enfoque más moderno, como derechos humanos o estereotipos, lo cual está genial porque vas de la mano con la realidad y el día a día, en lugar de los clásicos y un poco old-fashioned o anticuados exámenes donde hay que comparar imágenes. Por ello es que Rox considera que Trinity es la mejor opción para aprender el idioma de forma consistente mientras te preparas para un examen oficial, a pesar de que ya hay algunos exámenes más rápidos en cuanto a la preparación o de plano más sencillos. Podemos decir que este examen está ahead of its time o adelantado a su tiempo, ya que aunque lleva un tiempo en el mercado, tiene este formato más apegado a las estrategias actuales. Por otro lado, no se preocupen, no hay que estar de acuerdo con el examinador. Solo procuren expresar su desacuerdo con coherencia, respeto y, ¿por qué no?, una sonrisa no vendría mal. De hecho, el lenguaje corporal es algo que también habría que tener en cuenta. A mi parecer, es bastante interesante que hayan diferentes roles en cada parte del examen. Saben, en la primera tenemos que responder preguntas, mientras que en la segunda nosotros somos los que tomamos este rol y al final, en la última parte, se busca un equilibrio en una conversación. Definitivamente esto ayudará a que no nos vamos a aburrir. Ya para terminar, Rox comenta que una forma de mejorar en la improvisación, así como en el pensamiento crítico, que van de la mano, es trabajando en su expresión escrita. Esto puede deberse a que al momento de escribir nos tomamos un poco más de tiempo para determinar las expresiones que luego pondremos en práctica al hablar. De hecho, ya hablaremos más a fondo del writing en Trinity en otro podcast, ya que esto nos ayudará a practicar la manera en que formulamos y transmitimos la información. Y bueno, ya eso sería todo lo que habíamos hablado hoy, Rox y yo, en este episodio. Si les ha gustado, recuerden que pueden poner el botón de like y también pueden seguirnos, suscribirse en el canal y también, pues siempre pueden llamarnos y agendar alguna clase para aprender cualquier cosa que necesiten saber sobre Trinity, así como cualquier otro examen. Así que bueno, los espero para un próximo episodio y espero que estén muy bien. Take care. Bye. Esto ha sido una producción de Salón de Idiomas. Se reservan todos los derechos.